This video is very kindly sponsored by the Viewfinder app. As a landscape photographer, you may have certain photos in mind or specific locations you really want to photograph. So-called bucket list photos. It is the kind of photos you want to go that extra mile for. However, as amazing the hunt for a photo like that can be, it can also come with big disappointments if you don't get it. Join me in this video where I will be on the hunt for my #1 bucket list photo. Will I succeed? Will I get something else? How many tries will it take? So there's this one photo that I've been on my bucket list, top of my bucket list, for I guess at least 5-6 years. This morning I will try my best to get it. I don't expect much. I've been through the entire emotional roller coaster going here. I was up at 4 in the morning. I left the family, Sophia's family, I'm going with them here down to southern Germany. Back at the campsite, I left at 4. Now it's 15 minutes to 6, around sunrise. I hoped for some fog. I have a little bit of fog here in the background. I got some morning colors, sunrise colors instead, which was not supposed to happen according to the weather forecast, which has predicted, several weather forecasts predicted fog in entire southern Germany. I've seen a few banks, nothing much. So I'm not too optimistic right now, but let's see and let's hope. I'm still not at the location. I just have to walk another half kilometer. So I borrowed Sophia's umbrella. Cute. So I'm almost at the viewpoint where I can see probably the most cool castle on this planet. And no, I'm not talking about the Neuschwanstein castle. This one castle is called Burg Hohenzollern. I hope I pronounced that somewhat right. And it is basically Hogwarts on a mountaintop. And it looks so cool. Oh yeah. Even without the conditions that I wanted, it still looks like straight out of a fairy tale. So nice. So beautiful. And technically, I guess there is fog around. A bit of mist and some low fog. Maybe some light will break through over here in the background. You never know. Maybe something will happen. But at least I learned from my experience here. And I have time to come back over the next weeks. So what I was hoping for was, of course, a lot of fog in front of the castle right here. So it looks like a castle on the top of a mountain that goes way up into the skies. And that just looks amazing. So I've been waiting for about an hour or so. I knew a little bit of rain was coming in, as you can see on the clouds here in the background. Really beautiful. But when rain rolls in, sometimes it humidifies the air enough so that fog can manifest a little bit more, which has kind of happened. At the same time, I've had a bank of fog roll in that has placed itself around the hill where the castle is and behind the foreground hill. It's not really creeping up just underneath the castle, so I can just isolate the castle with a bank of fog underneath. But yeah, I'm not sure what I can get from this. I'm time-lapsing this one right now, so at the very least you can see the time-lapse of it. Or maybe I can even blend all the fog photos together and get something. I honestly do not know. I'm not even sure that I'm going to finish up the photos here. It depends what I get if I return to this place, which I do plan to do. For first try it was decent and I did get a hint of the effect that I wanted. But I'm sure it can be better. To maximize the effects of the clouds that rolled in, I took several photos, stacked them in Photoshop and changed the blending mode to lighten. In that way the lighter parts of each photo will be prioritized. I right now run my summer sale on my huge post-processing course where you can get an entire $100 off. So if you struggle with editing your photos, such as focus stacking, time blending, working with and editing with luminosity masks, dodging and burning, cleaning your photos properly, and much more, be sure to enroll. With 30 plus videos and 20 plus hours of techniques, there's a ton of value for the money. Just check out the quotes right here. You can find the discount code along with a link where you can read much more about the course down in the description of the video. So try 2 at Hohenzollern Castle. Family vacation is over, it's done. Sophia is flying home to Sweden tonight. I've come back down here to southern Germany and I'm going to drive around here for 10-14 days or something like that. Just getting a lot of the stuff photographed that I wanted to do basically for like 5 years. So I'm quite excited about that. And I've dedicated some days to photographing the castle here. And right now I'm going for the sunset shot. So the sun is setting somewhat behind the castle, a little bit to the left. And as you can see here in the background, we have big, moody clouds. So I'm hoping for the sun to break through those clouds because it's like shower clouds coming in. And hopefully that can give some interesting light here at sunset. Okay, rain and mood is on its way out here-ish. I wonder if it's going to hit me. I think it's going to maybe a little bit. Not entirely going to hit me. I wonder if I'm even going to get some sunbeams. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. You never know with the weather. But the irony is that when it comes to the mood and the atmosphere, it's almost better now here at sunset with this mood, which I don't think is atypical, but better than what I got the other morning. So let's see what happens. At night like tonight, it can go both ways. So if you followed my stories on Instagram, you know that while we were camping, we got so much rain. But one of the things that I really noticed was that each time we got like a heavy shower, the forests just started producing so much fog and it looked beautiful. Got so many photos. So obviously, theoretically, if I can just get like hammered standing right here with a shower, I guess theoretically, all I need is just a good amount of fog popping off from the forest. I will get that effect of the fog just surrounding the castle. Something like that. Maybe I can even get several photos of fog around the castle, moving around, and then I can just like blend it together afterwards in post-processing. There's many solutions to what I want, but I have some days to get the shot, so let's see. Right now it doesn't really look particularly good for sunset tonight. But there's a bit of a clearing out here. Maybe I will get something. So it doesn't really look as if something interesting is going to happen tonight. The sun is going to set behind the clouds here in the background. However, for tomorrow morning, there may be a slight chance of fog. So I'm using the Viewfinder app here, and I have this alert with fog and dense fog. And if I go and open it for sunrise for tomorrow, you can see that I'm located here. And everything where it's yellow, it says fog. Sadly, the specific area for where I'm standing, probably not a whole lot of fog, at least not at 5. If I go forward to 6, yeah, maybe a tiny bit of chance, but yeah, it doesn't really look as if there will be a whole lot of fog. Maybe a little bit of fog here in the background since I'm photographing north. But yeah, it doesn't look particularly promising for that local fog here for tomorrow morning. But you never know, and it would be stupid not to give it a chance now that I'm actually here. I've used the Viewfinder app for about a year now, and it has really become one of my main weather apps for a few different reasons. I find it to be very precise in its predictions compared to other apps. Not perfect, no weather app is. It's incredibly hard, if not impossible, to get everything right. But when you cross-check its predictions with other weather apps, I find it to be quite reliable. It has a great alerts section where you can choose what kind of alerts you want based on your location. Golden clouds, red skies and afterglow, clear night skies, fresh snow and even fog. I use this alert system to free up my mind so I don't constantly have to sit and check the forecasts. You can choose between different forecast models, and there are many different weather parameters relevant to landscape photographers. Some to highlight are the fog predictions, of course, the golden clouds and afterglow, and the 3 cloud levels, low, middle and high. The app is made for landscape photographers, so all the parameters are to some extent relevant for us landscape photographers. It is important to say that I still recommend using these different parameters in conjunction. As an example, if the forecast says there will be fog, but it also says it'll be cloudy, the chance of ground fog is greatly diminished, although forecasted. You may get what I call low cloud fog, which works great in forests, but inversion fog, where you have fog at ground level, in open areas, or in valleys, is just more likely if you had a clear night, no wind, and very importantly, the dew point is hit. There's also a distinction between the fog parameter and the dense fog parameter, where you can even see the height of the fog. This is of course more relevant for those of you who live in a country with mountains. You can read much more about how the fog parameters work on the Viewfinder homepage. Within the app you can also find several tutorials on how the different parameters work and how you should interpret the data that it offers. And I can of course highly recommend to actually watch or read these tutorials to get a deeper understanding of how the app and the weather work. There is a 2-week free trial and afterwards a low monthly fee which you can cancel at any time. It is a great app and I gladly pay for the alert system alone. You can check it out via the QR code here on screen or via the link in the description of the video. So the sun is actually peeping out here for just a second. Not strong enough to light up the scene at all, sadly, but that's kind of what I hoped for. But, you know, a handheld shot with the extra camera, the A7C-R, is not too shabby either. Well, 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 well. A tiny bit of clouds. Just after sunset. I wanted to stick around because maybe these clouds up here would light up. But then I got a bit of clouds here instead. Looks nice. Looks nice. Looks nice. Good beginning. Good beginning. I've seen worse. I've definitely seen worse. It's moving so fast. So cool. Just hammering off here with my interval shooting. And more is coming. I just keep shooting until these clouds are gone. I'm moving so fast. Way too fast. Also maybe a bit too close to me. But whatever. So second morning, third try. As you can see, it's foggy around me, but from what I also saw driving here is that the entire hill that you're standing on is covered in fog, and maybe even the top of the hill where the castle is. But down at ground level, there's not really any fog, so this is more like low cloud fog, as I usually call it. So, as you can see, it's all foggy behind me, and yeah, low cloud, can't see anything. It's a bit annoying when you do travel, because I tend to go for specific places, locations, subjects to photograph. And when you can't see them, you obviously can't see them. I have these beautiful foggy conditions. I have a forest right here, but I haven't researched the forest. I do not know the forest. I do not know where to go in the forest. And I feel I can't really use the fog here to my benefit, which is a bit of a bummer. It would also be wrong to like leave this area if something interesting happens. So yeah, that's the thing with traveling. When you haven't researched the entire area and made a plan B, which I haven't really, you just have to bite the bullet and accept that it is what it is. It's also a bit windy, the trees are moving, so they would just be blurry anyway. Giving myself excuses not to, to feel bad. So it seems to be clearing, and it's one of those cases where it can happen in like seconds. So I need to be ready with my setup here. The 50 to 400 millimeter, the camera is on. I put in somewhat of a settings that I want. Aperture priority, ISO 100, f11. Basically just need to find my composition and focus. And that's it, whenever it happens. But it can also be like 15 minutes from now or half an hour from now. You never know. But it's about being ready. It's so close. But it is like, low cloud. So once the cloud comes up, chances are I'm just going to see the entire landscape and the castle, and there won't be like that foggy separation. But oh well. Just one of those mornings. But it is just out there. Come on! The annoying thing is, I've waited so long, and I basically just wait to see the castle, but I'm not getting the photo that I want. So, yep. So what I could hope for is that even with the foreground clouds here, they may be so low that the castle pops out. That would be ideal for this morning, I guess. I won't have like clear all the way up and then the castle and then the clouds, or an inversion. But at least maybe some clouds in the foreground is still a possibility. These clouds are just like so erratic, comes and goes. I did see the castle for like a few seconds. but there were a little bit too many clouds in front, so you can't really probably make it out on the photo. Gosh, this is one of those mornings. It takes so long for anything to happen. More than 3 hours I've been waiting so far. Just looking at banks of low clouds hitting me again and again and again. I just need that hole. But at the very least, the positive thing is that it still looks as if there are enough low clouds, so I may be lucky to get that separation while the castle comes out of the sky. But again, you never know. Patience. Patience. So, 9:42, and I can finally start seeing the castle. Almost 4 hours of waiting. It's quite cold standing on top of a hill, even in July, when it's foggy and overcast. But yeah, the castle is definitely popping out of the clouds now. Or at least the clouds are like moving up. At least for now. They're probably moving in again. So finally, after 4 hours, the castle came out, had a beautiful layer of clouds just above it, and I'm sure I can time blend this one here. I got enough photos where I have like Foggy in the foreground that I can probably stitch them together. Now, I don't expect this to be the last time that I visit this viewpoint and photograph the castle, but at the very least, I'm pretty confident I can put something together with some more or less basic masking in Photoshop. That double light always works so well. But it is of course the fog photos I'm the most happy with, and they're so close to what I imagined. Optimally, I would like to see the fog being more swept around the hill with the castle on, so that you actually look down on it, and some texture being visible on top of the fog. Basically like the photo I captured from Tuscany a few months back. In this case, I find that the clouds make more of a framing effect around the castle, which is of course also fine and basically the next best thing to what I wanted, so no complaining here. And speaking of framing, during the daytime on a reconnaissance mission, I actually found a couple of trees that I could use to frame the castle and capture this photo. So there are of course a whole lot of other viewpoints toward the castle. I've just come out on this small country road, simply just driving around, trying to find a place where I can photograph it. We're close to sunset right now, getting my dinner, good salad, Caesar salad, 3 pieces of very cheap chicken from Lidl. Nevertheless, right now I'm just filming, so you get to see the time lapse here, and from time to time when the light is great on the castle, then I'm also getting a photo. There's a little bit of like dapple light running through the scene, so sometimes I have the castle lit, then I have a little bit of a shadow just below it, and then I sometimes have the foreground hill, as you can see, lit, and sometimes that one is also in shadow. I'm a little bit in doubt about what to do with this photo in post-processing. Maybe just add a little bit of contrast and call it a day. Let's see. So as I said, that dapple light just works so well. I actually have an entire subchapter about using dapple light in landscape photography in my ebook Landscape Light. And it was also this phenomenon of dappled light just before sunset I used to capture these 2 photos on another evening. The dark storm clouds in the background just make such an amazing contrast to the lit castle and hill. The ebook has minimal text and tons of examples, so it is super easy to read. There are chapters on all the different types of light, the light you can experience throughout the day and night, along with chapters on color, the correlation between post-processing and light, and chapters that add it all together and makes you think. There's a link to it down in the description of the video, along with links to my ebooks on composition that you can get bundled up with the ebook on light. And as always, a massive thank you to all of you who've got my ebooks over the years. It is literally because of you I can make videos like these. I honestly doubt a prettier castle exists on this planet. The only challenge I would say is Neuschwanstein, but Hohenzollern, it's just such a fairy tale castle situated on top of that hill. Completely reminds me of Hogwarts. Beautiful. So I've come to a slightly different angle, as you can see. This is actually the road leading up to the castle. It's a museum. It's also a castle, and it's privately owned. You can go to the museum, they have an exhibition, check out the castle and all that stuff. And right now I'm simply just waiting, and that happened now, for a little bit of light on the castle. I have a pretty cool cloud just there behind it, just to create a little bit of interest. I'm just working with a vertical composition right now, but else I'm also shooting horizontally, just trying a few different compositions, basically just having the castle in the middle or in the center of the photo, and then I'm just moving the camera up and down. I don't really offset the castle to either side. I can offset it a little bit to the left. It makes sense with the hill there on the right, and also the castle. I'm not shooting it straight from the front. I'm shooting it a little bit angled, so it's actually pointing that way, which means that it would make sense to put it on the left side of the middle if I do off-center the castle. Right now I have light on the castle and no light on the forest, which is really cool. Really, really cool. But from what I can see, it does not look as if I'm going to have a sunset tonight, which I guess is also fine. I was up early, I kind of need the sleep. But then again, you can always sleep when you get old. It would have been nice with an epic sunset. Oh well, maybe tomorrow. So I just moved slightly forward just so that I could maybe get a little bit of foreground vegetation. And then I come by the scene where a little bird is sitting on a branch, and I managed to get it in there and capture the shot and film like 2 seconds, and then it flew away. But nevertheless, you can see it here. And I actually think that's kind of cool. I of course would have wished that there was light on Hohenzollern, but well, it still works. So I guess we have reached the 4th attempt. It must be 5th. I've lost track. But sunset time. Last time went really well, I guess. This is actually the first time, I think, more or less ever on my YouTube channel where I am editing the video and editing the photos as I'm still recording the video. So I have a pretty decent idea about the final photos that I've got so far. But yeah, let's see what happens at this sunset. So for this evening shoot, I've come a little bit down the hill. For all the other shoots, I've been standing like up here. The reason for that are a few different. So one, it's a sunset. It looks like a decent sunset, so there will be people up there and me talking. I have learned over the years to do it, but I prefer to just be alone whenever I do my videos. Secondly, the perspective is actually really good from down here because one, we get the horizon line a little bit lower relative to the castle. So up there, the horizon line goes straight through the upper tower. And for this sunset shoot, the horizon is relatively clear, so you will have that line. Now coming a bit further down, I will have the horizon line just below the rooftops of the castle, which I prefer. Secondly, because I'm this lower, the foreground hill is a bit further up. So I will not have as big of a distance between the foreground hill and the castle, which means that I can actually zoom a bit further in, which makes the castle larger in the frame, while still having that foreground hill, those foreground trees in there that I actually like because it creates a little bit more depth. So it's not just a hill with a castle on top, but there is some kind of foreground. Thirdly, there are actually some trees down here that I can use as an additional foreground if I want to. So in case I want to use the tree here in the background, I can simply just move over here, and that makes the tree get a little bit closer to the castle. So I can actually use that foreground tree to frame the castle a little bit more, which I like. I'm not sure if I prefer just to have the hill trees as the foreground or if I want to have the tree right there as the foreground. But at the very least, I have options, so I'm probably going to run a big back and forward as the sun sets. And it looks as if there will actually be a somewhat clear horizon. So I'm curious to see how the lighting is going to behave. So as the sun is setting, I'm losing the light on the side of the hills. And I do think I prefer the photo with light because it gives that extra dynamic to the scene, but obviously the colors change during sunset, so you get like a little bit like softer colors, more golden colors instead for the background. But I do think the scene is probably a little bit better with that side light on. I've come a little bit further down the hill, just a tiny bit, because I can then make a vertical composition where I have again the hill trees a little bit closer again to the castle. And I actually think that works out really well. Well, these two photos turned out much better than expected. I love the golden light and atmosphere, which I of course enhanced in post-processing, techniques I cover in my Photoshop for Landscape Photographers course. I kept shooting after sunset, but I didn't really capture anything better than what I had already got. And as it turned out, this also became my last visit, at least for now, to Hohenzollern. The forecast for the next few days wasn't particularly interesting, and although I stayed in southern Germany for the next 10 days, the forecast and fog predictions didn't go off for this area. I decided to drive on as there were tons of other locations to visit, and it turned out to be a very good decision, as you will see in next week's video. Look at that! The glow, the atmosphere! Although I didn't get exactly what I wanted, I am very satisfied with the collection of photos I got from Hohenzollern. Let me know down in the comments which one you liked the best. Give the Viewfinder app a try, be sure to benefit from my summer sale and get the $100 off, and if you struggle with light or composition, my ebooks are of course also available. Look forward to next week's video where I photograph the famous Hohenzollern Castle and capture some absolutely ridiculous photos, and if you haven't seen last week's video, the start of this journey, be sure to do so now.